The Brewers just found another way to win. That's what this team does. They just find guys to step up in big moments. Like I said, gamers on this team. They climbed 15 games over the 500 mark. There's no turning back for these guys. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me here on an early Thursday morning. Good to have you along after the Brewers swept another series. Well, they swept the Texas Rangers. I was just looking back at how many times the Brewers on the final game of the series against someone at home have won. And unless I'm overlooking something, I only saw the Twins game after opening day back in early April was the only game that they have lost on one of these afternoon games. But you look at Wednesday and Thursday afternoons at home, they dominate. No matter what happens in the other games of the series, they dominate. They find a way to win. The Brewers always find a way to win. They do. They do. And here they are. Once again, for a first time, actually, they are 15 games over the 500 mark. This show is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. You know, I just you find just different moments with this team. I mean, there's so many guys who've stepped up and made this possible so far. 15 games over the 500 mark. I'm enjoying this. I'm loving this. Yeah, it's always in the back of my mind because we've been burned the last couple of seasons. How are they going to be in the postseason? Are we going to have this type of magic in the postseason? Are they going to stay in the postseason more than 27 hours this time after working for 6 or 7 months to build up to this point? Well, that's up for debate. Who knows? I'd love for them to catch the Phillies or Dodgers, but as of right now, I'm just enjoying it. You know, they're coming off that series, that road trip against last week, where the final games of that series against San Diego, they dropped 3 of 4, and some of you might have thought, including me, thought, oh boy, there's been so many times we thought that it could be the beginning of the end with this team, that they could get sunk, they could just go away, and it would be the beginning of the end. This team never has any sustained losing streaks. They don't have any sustained losing streaks. They've had 5 3-game skids, never more than that. And I feel like every time they have a 3-game skid and they win, they come back, bouncing back, and like nothing ever happened. Now they got a 4-game winning streak. Now they won Sunday in San Diego after losing 3 in a row, and here they are, 3 straight wins against a darn good Texas Rangers team. Yeah, Rangers team that's struggling right now below the 500 mark, but that team won the World Series last year. That's still a good baseball team. And the Brewers went out there, and there were times they could have lost all 3 of these games in the series, but they didn't. They won it, and they closed it out Wednesday, even with Dallas Keuchel on the hill. And I say that even with Dallas Keuchel on the hill because the guy was making his first start. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But, also all these guys who step up, and Monasterio comes into the game, 7th inning. He pinch hits for Ortiz. And right away, you're wondering, why is Monasterio coming to the plate, righty against righty? Ortiz should be batting in this spot. Well, no matter what, I don't care. I don't want anybody pinch hitting for Ortiz at this point. And when Monasterio's coming in, you're thinking, what's going on? And then you find out later that Ortiz has got still a little bit of a neck issue. So Monasterio comes in, and then in the 10th inning, when the Brewers couldn't lay down the bunt, they had just 2 pathetic at-bats in a row, including Bowers, who couldn't lay down the bunt. So man at third, man at first, you're thinking, what's going to happen here? Is Monasterio going to step up? And he lashes one into the left center field gap and plates in the winning run. But you know what? I was watching Monasterio in the dugout after Hoskins hit his grand slam on Tuesday night. And Monasterio, when the guy hits the home run, the player hits the home run, Monasterio was last in line, and he gave Reese Hoskins, that low five or whatever they call it, the high five on a low version. I don't know. But, I just thought Monasterio looked as fired up as anybody. And here's a guy who had regular playing time last year. And, they went out and the Brewers got better players this year where Monasterio doesn't have to be at regular playing time. And we all know Monasterio is a utility guy. I said this last year. There's no secret to that. He's a utility guy at best. And he's a good one. He's a good utility player. That's his role on the team. So the guy just bides his time, sitting on the bench for 6 innings, comes in, pinch hits, makes out in the 7th inning, and then comes through in the bottom of the 10th inning. But this is what this team is full of guys like that, guys who are just scrappers, guys who are just gamers, guys who are going to figure out a way, how are we going to get this win? When things aren't going well, how are we going to find a way to get things done? Also in this homestand, down 3-1 at one point earlier in the week, they put up a 5-run, 6th or 7th inning, turn a game around. These guys find ways sometimes, more often than not, to turn games around. Just gamers. Like I said, I hope this translates into something good in the postseason. We don't know that. But so far, what they've set so far in coming up with big moments and unsung heroes and guys like that, so many gamers. I mean, you look it up and down this lineup. Is there not one guy on this team that you could not go to war with? And when I say go to war with, a guy who you wouldn't want to have on your team. Yeah, as Pat Murphy says, we're not the prettiest team in the world. We're not the best team in the world, but sure, they make up for it with smarts, high baseball IQ, and just flat out hustling and out working the other team. That's what this team does. They outwork teams. They out hustle teams. And a case in point, on Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, they give up the lead with Keuchel, but they come storming right back. Tie game in the 5th inning. They kept at it. Bottom of the 10th inning, Monasterio comes through, and he gets the Gatorade dump. So good for that. Good for the Brewers. Heading into the off day, a season-high 15 games over the 500 mark. I love this with the Cubs coming to town. We're going to get more into that series with the Cubs toward the end of the show here. Coming up next, we'll talk about Dallas Keuchel's performance on the Hill. It was not a good one. He says it was better than it was. I don't think so. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, on all the major downloads. Hit us up on YouTube, that growing YouTube page. Search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. We're always all free. We're all free. And, of course, I make appearances on state radio stations like ESPN Lacrosse, the Bill Michaels Show throughout the week on behalf of Locked On Brewers, talking Brewers baseball with those great hosts right there. And Locked On Brewers, we pride ourselves on getting the great news, the big news, whether it's off-season, spring training, the playoffs, the draft, whatever it is. You need to know what's going on with the Brewers year-round. Just like collection season is year-round. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for those unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Over 14 years experience, the A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, you got complicated matters regarding your tax planning, or you hit a parlay and you got one of those forms and you need to figure out how to file that. You need to file that parlay winning of yours or whatever winning that you have big. Call 1-800-549-1000. They'll help you out. 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Of course, see that link in the episode if you're watching me on YouTube right now. And of course, the show is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book for a reason. They just flat out get it, man. I love sports. Hey, I don't hide it, man. I like to bet a little bit on games, on baseball games. Nothing wrong with me going on a game or two. I love it as well. I hope and if you're going on the Brewers this year, man, you're ranking in some coin. There's no doubt about that. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone. every day, all summer long at FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start making the most of your summer with FanDuel. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You got lousy weather. You got the relatives coming into town. Gosh, it makes watching a game that doesn't involve the Milwaukee Brewers a heck of a lot more interesting when you got a little FanDuel on it. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. This is Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Dallas Keuchel. I don't think he had a very good performance. Now, I said I was going to give this guy some wiggle room, an opportunity. There's an opportunity for him to come in and keep his Major League Baseball career going at the age of 36. He's bounced around from a bunch of different teams. We talked about that yesterday on the podcast. What does he bring to the Brewers? Well, veteran leadership. He brings that. He's got the Cy Young under his belt, which was 9 years ago. His better days are behind him. There's no doubt about it. That's why he was in the Pacific Coast League in Seattle's organization. But the Brewers have brought him in, and they put him in the pitch on, we should have put 2 and 2 together. We should have put 2 and 2 together when Tuesday night at the post-game press conference, Murphy was asked, who's the pitcher going to be on Wednesday? Oh, I don't know yet. Oh, he knew. He didn't just tell Dallas Keuchel when he came to the ballpark on Wednesday, oh, by the way, Dallas, you just got to town, you're pitching. No, Dallas knew Tuesday night, obviously, that he was going to be pitching in this game. And this is what the Brewers do, though. When they call somebody up, when they make a trade for somebody, they pick somebody up, whatever, off the waiver wire, the Brewers like to get guys into the lineup right away. They don't want them sitting around getting rust. They're right at it, getting them acclimated and throwing them right into action. They have no problem doing that. You look at the history of the Brewers since Craig Keuchel was manager, and now with Pat Murphy, that philosophy between the two, there's some differences in their philosophies, but their similarities are get people into the ball game. And they got Dallas Keuchel into the game. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind 48 hours for him. And he talked about it after the game, said that, he's exhausted and all that. He's going to get a good night's sleep. But his line, 4 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits, 2 home run balls. He said he thought he threw the ball well. Obviously, he's going to have to do better than that. He's going to get a couple more starts, obviously. Somebody asked, should they use him as an opener? I thought that'd be a pretty good idea. Use him as an opener. Let him go a couple of innings. Man, they threw him in for 4 innings. 4 innings. Thought he was going to go 3. They had guys ready unless he only went 3. But he went 4. 1, 2, 3 first inning. You thought, okay, he's going to sail around. He's going to sail through this. Second inning, there was problems. And yeah, he gave up 5 runs. He gave up the Brewers lead. And 8 hits, 2 home runs. It was, I don't care what anybody say, a mixed bag. It was not a good outing. It was not a good outing. And the reason why I say that is there's different standards for guys. When Rodriguez comes up and has this type of outing, well, he's coming up and he's making his major league debut. And I guess I should cut Keuchel some slack, but he's been in the major leagues. He's on the downside of his career. He was pitching well in the Pacific Coast League, but no, by his standards, and I'm not saying we hold still Keuchel to Cy Young standards, but still a veteran pitcher. I expect going forward 4 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs. He's got to be better than that, or they'll DFA him too. They will. But again, Dallas was pretty optimistic in the locker room. He'll get a few days here to settle down. Thursday's an off day. He'll get used to Milwaukee a little bit, settle into wherever they have him housed up for the rest of the season or however long he's here. And, it's a matter of him and whoever's catching, in this case, Contreras, getting on the same page. And it looked like they were on the same page. So that's good. And Will is so easy to work with. You hear all the pitchers talk about that. William is so easy to work with. But yeah, Keuchel, he was happy with his performance. I'm not happy with 4 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits, 2 home runs, but I'm not giving up on him yet. And I'm good with him. Give it another start. I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. I just don't want him to lose games for us. Okay, for the Brewers. Thank God the Brewers offense bailed him out, but we can't. Obviously, that's not that type of performance. He keeps on having performances like that. He's not long to be with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he won't be starting games. Okay, if he's around, he'll be there like in blowout games, which the Brewers don't play a heck of a lot of those games, either winning or losing. So we'll give him. We'll see what his next start is going to be, if they give him another one or what they choose to do it. But I was surprised Wednesday, but then when got to the ballpark and I saw Keuchel was pitching, I was like, oh, I guess I'm not surprised, because that's the MO of the Milwaukee Brewers. Get him in there. The Cubs are coming in next. Can't wait. Well, unfortunately, what comes along with the Cubs is the Cubs fans. But the Cubs are in for a first of three. We'll take a look at the standings, too, and how things are going. The Cubs are not playing well at all. We'll get to that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. When Cub fans come here, or we go there, or go on a road trip, we need a place to go to. And Booking.com, Booking.com is the place to go. Summer travel, this is the place to go. If you're going out of town for a game, you want to see Milwaukee play, and let's say Cincinnati, or down in Chicago next month, or wherever they are, Booking.com. Explore U.S. cities with Booking.com. Hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your rival's city. If you're going down to St. Louis, they got to go to St. Louis yet again. Maybe you want to go down there. Use Booking.com. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the USA for your summer travel this MLB season. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app. But go to Booking.com. You're planning on travel with the Brewers this year, go to Booking.com, and they will help you out for sure. Also, the show is brought to you in part by LinkedIn sales. Sales is never easy. There's no doubt about that. Sales, and it's tough enough, isn't it? In today's world, B2B selling is tougher than ever. That's what I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is the sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right customers, the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely converted. Is fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform. We're all on there. Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date, the first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you could try LinkedIn Sales Navigator, get a 60-day free trial, LinkedIn.com/lockedon, LinkedIn.com/lockedon, a 60-day free trial. Get LinkedIn Sales Navigator, help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to LinkedIn.com/lockedon and get started today. Chuck Freeman, down the stretch we come here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. I get this asked so often. Chuck, who do you see giving the Brewers the biggest challenge this year? Who do you see it? I would have to say right now, St. Louis is coming on strong. They lost the first game of their doubleheader against Atlanta, night doubleheader, and then they came back and won the nightcap. The Cubs, last time I saw, they were losing, and they did lose 4-3 to San Francisco. We should be worried about all these teams. Most importantly, I do worry about the Milwaukee Brewers, but the Brewers are just sailing along right now, and you can't help but love where they are. If they can have this the deeper you go into the season, the more you check days off the calendar, the better your chances of winning the division. each day goes by and the Brewers have a 6 or 7 game lead in this division, hey, makes it tougher for anybody else in this division to catch them. That's just the way it works. Tougher in this division. So the Brewers with this nice lead of 6 games on St. Louis, 8.5 on Pittsburgh, 10.5 on Cincinnati, 11 on the Cubs. Bill Michaels asked me the other day, he said, do you look at this as a make or break series for the Cubs? The Cubs would have to come in here at this point, even though it's, late June, Cubs need to come in here and probably sweep the Brewers. And that's a tough ask. Okay. They would have to come in here and sweep the Brewers. I mean, they're 11 games out. Not insurmountable by any means, but at 37, they're 7 games under the 500 mark, the Cubs. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we were playing for first place, and against these guys, it was first place against second place. Brewers weren't playing for first place, but the Cubs are breathing down their neck. Since then, things have not gone well for the Cubs. 37-4. So they're 7 games under the 500 mark, 37-44. The Brewers are 15 games over the 500 mark, 48-33. That's a big swing right there. That's a big swing. I'm not saying that can't happen, but you look at the 2 teams in this division who are bringing up the rear. 2 teams I thought would give the Brewers their biggest issues. Cincinnati, 37-43, 10.5 out. Again, not insurmountable, but still 6 games under. Brewers 15 games over. The Reds are going to have to start tearing off some wins and put things together. They just haven't done that yet. Now, St. Louis is right there. They're 6 games out. They got within 5 at one point, but they're 6 games out, 41-38. The Brewers, again, just keep winning. Keep taking series. They've won 8 home series in a row. Keep winning series. They are home this weekend against the Cubs. They go on a road trip next week, and we'll talk more about that. And then the All-Star game's coming up in a couple of weeks, and just trying to get to the midway point of the season and the All-Star break. And, yeah, let's get into the All-Star break with a nice 6 or 7 game lead. Get that deep into the season and then go from there and see what moves the Brewers are going to make once they get to July. Cubs in for a first of 3, and Friday's game is a 7:10 first pitch. You get it on SiriusXM, the SXM app. Search Brewers. You're going to get all 162 of Brewers baseball. The home team call with all the guys on the Brewers radio network. They're so good. Anybody they put there in front of the mic, Brewers. I'll say this about the Brewers over the years. No matter what, how good or bad their team is, they've always had the best broadcast crews, whether it's TV or radio. And the analysis that you get is just really, really good. Rock has been there for 30 years on TV and on radio. There's no analysis. There's no analyst. They just go with strictly play-by-play guys, and they're all good. But on TV, when Rock's not there, you can't go wrong with Vinny or Tim Dillard. Whether they're at the desk or in the broadcast booth, you can't go wrong. Two guys. Dillard's funnier than heck, but don't let that get in the way of that guy knows baseball. That guy he knows baseball. He's funny, he's humorous, but he also knows his baseball. And Vinny Rotino, I've told you about Vinny. I feel like Vinny just studies the game 23 hours a day, and then he eats dinner with the other hour. That's how much that guy knows about baseball. 2 guys, really, really good guys. All right. So, Cubs in town this weekend. We'll see you at the ballpark this weekend. If you see me, stop by and say hi. Always love talking to the great Brewer fans out there. This podcast, you get it on Google, Spotify, Apple, all the major downloads. There's so many platforms out there to download Locked On Brewers. We're on all of them. Also, hit me up on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers on YouTube. Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. We're here 5 days a week. We are going to be taking a couple of days off toward the end of, I believe, next week or the week after, 4th of July, I believe it is. Just a couple of days off. But we'll have the Colorado series covered for you right here on Locked On Brewers. But a couple of days off, I'll be away. But, that's just a couple of games. Well, we're here Monday through Friday. Sometimes the newspaper doesn't deliver on a certain day. Well, there's going to be a day next week or 2, possibly just 1, that'll be taken off. But hey, hit me up on Twitter. Always love hearing what you have to say. Hit me up on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. All you everydayers out there, I appreciate you. You guys make this the number one Brewers podcast on the internet. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Enjoy the off day on Thursday of Brewers baseball.